Bang! Needs knives. I'm Jared. My lovely wife Kara is at work, and this is the full review on the Crk Knives Umnumzaan. Now, I did check one of these out in the past, but I only had it in for sharpening, so I basically just did an impression on it. This one I've carried, sharpened, used, everything. So this is an actual review on the good and the bad of this knife. I know there's lots of videos out on this knife, but I want to do my impressions of it. So the total length of this thing is 3.6 inch blade length, 8 3/8 overall length. The drop point, I guess you call it like a harpoon, kind of harpoon drop point blade with a nice, beautiful hollow ground blade. Love the hollow ground blade. It does cut relatively well. I enjoyed slicing with it. I enjoyed working with it. It just cut like a champ. Cut really good. The push cuts are beautiful on it. We'll talk about the ergos in a second, but the blade actually passing through materials is really nice. Coupled with the ergos is also really nice, but yeah, it just works really well when slicing, cutting, and even times when I was kind of going through tape, I did get a little bit of resistance. Obviously, you're gonna with any knife, but it did very well, especially with this knife, being kind of a hard use knife, is it cuts fantastic for the caliper of knife that it is. Now, utility cuts. Utility cuts, it's not a utility cutter. It's not a Warncliffe or a sheep's foot blade or, something like that. But it does do very well. Now, I noticed I got the best results when I blocked my finger right behind this harpoon right there and kind of held it like this. That's where I got the best utility cutting out of it. Now, there were times when, like if it's not that difficult, you can just pinch it and go like that. But when, times get difficult and you need to do a utility cut, that seemed to be the best way for me. And behind the edge thickness of the knife, I should have said that already in the slicing, is right under 20 thousandths. At least on my calipers, it's right under 20 thousandths, which with this type of grind is beautiful to me. I don't mind a little thicker behind the edge when it's got a nice deep, tall, hollow grind like this one does. So, like I said, the slicing, the utility cuts work great. The utility cuts, you're going to have to either lift up high, or you're going to have to, like I said, put the finger behind the spot right there to really dig in. But it works, especially when you look at the strength in the tip, because it does have a relatively strong tip. The thickness of the spine goes all the way out to the tip, and then the hollow grind comes up to it too. So you got the thinness and the thickness matching up right there to really create an acute yet strong tip. I wouldn't call it a precision tip, but it works really well for what it's worth. Jimping on the spine, it just feels and seems like quality jimping. The spine of the blade is basically crowned, so it's nice and soft, and you do have these placements here where you can really place fingers when cutting. Now, the sharpening choil, that's something I'm not really that big of a fan of. You can see where it's been hit and where the plunge grind basically lands right behind it. I really like the Sabenzas, the way they do that. Theirs goes all the way down here. You can't even see it when it's turned sideways because it's underneath the scales. Then the plunge grind, then all this is the same thickness. That is a beautiful job on the Sabenza. So I'd rather see that, but whatever. It's not that big of a deal. And when it's closed, you can see you have nothing in the way because the stop pin is the thumb studs. So you could technically put a choil in there if you really wanted to. The ergos now. The ergos are relatively good. I mean, they're pretty decent. I do have this little shimmy right there, the lock bar that pokes out, as you can see. Now, you have a couple choices here. So, like, I basically hold it right here and just let it fall right in between my two knuckles. That seems to be the most comfortable. But I did notice when sharpening that it, you know, there were some spots that were kind of aggravating me. And that kind of tells me, like, how long duty cutting is going to treat me with it. So, you know, you might start getting an annoyance in spots, like when I'm holding it like this thing is just poking me right there. So, I mean, I can adjust, readjust, but you know, when you're doing long-term cutting, you tend to put up with things that, you know, it's not like you can just readjust sometimes in the middle of a cut, if you know what I mean. But, you know, it's neutral. Love the straightness of it, where it's just neutral. You know, it works really good. I do feel this the clip right there. It does happen to land in my hand. You can see where it lands right there in my callus bone, whatever. So I do feel that, but I can kind of adjust it and put it in between my fingers right there, you know, when I'm, you know, I don't know, I can just adjust and make it work, basically. Now, the scales, I love this pattern right here. The pattern looks beautiful. I love the thickness of the titanium, no milling. I just love that, just solid slabs. I really like the weight of it. The weight of it's, you know, great weight. Let's talk about the action, and then we'll talk about the sharpening. So, I do have a little bit of an issue here, so it's not going to be as good as it could be because I don't have any grease. I ran out of grease, and it's starting to get a little gritty. Now, the whole time, it's been extremely smooth. Now it's gotten a little gritty. So I'm just going to, you know, Floydian's the one who sent it. I'm just going to send it back to him, and when, you know, he can deal with it when he gets to him. I hate doing that. I really, really hate doing that, but I don't really have a choice because I don't want to put oil in there. You know, you're supposed to put grease in these. So unless if my grease gets here before I send it back. If that happens, then obviously I'll take care of it. So, but the action was really good. These are a little slippery, you know, and it's a little gritty right now, but they are a little slick. And with the rubber bands is what makes it silent. Because when it opens up, the bands hit right here instead of the steel on titanium. And then you see where it hits when it closes. But you can slow roll it. It's normally very, very smooth. I didn't have any issues reverse flicking it, aside from it being slippery. Now, since it's a little gritty, it's not the easiest. But I can reverse flick it normally. I hate doing a review like this when I can't, you know, I'm not justifying the action right now, but if you listen, it's gotten a little gritty. So, you know, it is what it is, and it doesn't stop me from doing the review. There's lots of videos talking about the Umnumzaan's action. It's extremely smooth. Extremely, extremely smooth. It's just this one, you know, you need to clean them. That's it. And I can't do it, you know, without no grease, and I don't have it here. So hopefully it'll get here before I send it back. Anyways. Sorry I couldn't do the action justification. I think I did the action a little bit better justice in my first impressions video. But I can still get by because since it's on phosphor bronze, which actually says a lot about the knife, that since it's, even though it's gritty, I can still deploy it, open it, and use it and work with it without an issue, which is cool. Like I said, I do think though that the thumb studs are a little slippery. Now the clip and now the pocket. I love I love Chris Reeve knife clips. They just work so good. Some of the best clips out there. You know, I love them. They go in and out of the pocket so perfectly. The tension pulling them out of your pocket, it's a nice, comfortable feeling. You don't feel like it's ever going to shred your pocket. And this thing carries very well in the pocket. It's a joy to carry. And it's just, yeah, the clip is great. Even in the hand, it's not that bad. Like I said, this little spot right here kind of poked me a little bit, but I love the clip. So Has a lock bar stabilizer, which basically stops you from unspringing the lock in any direction. And, well, at least in the... it stops you from unspringing the lock going this way. Anyways, also, you can see the lanyard pin. Now, if you take the lanyard off, the pin will come out, kind of like the Sebenza right here. I want to figure out a way because I want to keep my pin in. I love the way the pin looks, but I got to maybe put like a little knot on my Sebenza. We'll do some size comparisons here in a second. This is, I guess, a glass breaker. I don't know how good it works. I didn't try it or practice with it or anything like that, but yeah, I did use my SOCOM though, on some glass breaking, but not this one though. It's not my knife. So, let's talk about sharpening because it came with a good edge. It came with a good edge. It looked like a fixed angle system edge. And I should probably do its own video on this subject, but I want to talk about how I matched up the angle. So once I found my angle, I was having a little bit of trouble up in the belly area right here, hitting it. So I started sharpening it. I started with my lowest grit for venev stones. It came with a polished edge, so I wanted to put a polished edge back on there. Normally with S35VN, I like a little bit of a lower grit, but it can take a polished edge. I just think that it kind of loses its bite a little bit. Even if it has a good amount of bite from the start, it tends to lose it pretty quick. But it came with a polished edge, so I wanted to replace the polished edge. And when sharpening it, the steel felt very good on the stone. It was sharpening really good. But like I said, I had a little issue right in the belly where matching the angle, I wasn't matching it going across the stone. So what I was doing, and I'm going to show you right here, and then you can watch it while I'm sharpening. I started going like this, going across the stone and lifting to the tip, and basically lifting to the tip. So I could see that I was hitting all the way to the apex, all the way to the very edge, but not the back of the bevel. So not back here. So what I did was I started dropping it. So as I was going, I went from going this high to this high. Then, I still wasn't hitting it. So then I went to this high. Then I realized I had to bring it down pretty low, and I had to basically go across the stone and just that high. So I went through my grit level, and then I matched it up just fine. And we'll take a look at it in a second, but let's keep taking a look at the sharpening. So I went through my stone progression, sharpened up really good, polished really good. Everything seemed to go really good. It actually kept a good amount of bite for a polished edge. I did bring it all the way from 160 micron through the stones all the way to 3/2 micron. Then after I was done sharpening or polishing on my 3/2 micron, I went to my new diamond spray, some DMT 0.5 micron diamond spray. Now, this stuff is for a polished edge. It's not, I want to get some more spray with more of a grit, a little bit rougher of a grip. I have plenty of venev diamond compound that's very gritty, so I'm not in a rush to get it or anything, but I'm probably going to order some here pretty soon. But the 0.5 micron spray, it's really easy to use. You just spray it on the strop, and I got this new Viking strop that it's a very hard leather. I don't know how much I like it yet, but it's a very, very dense leather. And you really want to hold your angle with it, but did my passes on the Viking strop with the DMT diamond spray. And you can see it cutting some paper. It's cutting beautifully, extremely sharp. And now when I say that, I don't like S35 at a high grit, a mirror grit, that doesn't mean it's not extremely sharp. I mean, you can hear my sin. I mean, it's very, very sharp. It's just, the bite that goes away pretty quick as you start cutting, and just the bite compared to a low grit is, you know, it's night and day difference. The S35 with a low grit keeps an extreme amount of bite and is just, you know, it's like a saw when it goes through stuff. Anyways, but this is a beautiful edge. Let's take a look at it. You know what? Let's take a look at the before I started sharpening. Let's take a look at the before sharpening, before I started sharpening. Let's take a look at that. So this is the edge before I started sharpening, after a bunch of use. Absolutely. And then now here it is after. Let's take a look. So it still has a small amount of grit on there, but not a lot. It's basically a full-blown mirror. And it looks beautiful. So, all in all, I love the knife, but the couple negative things are, you know, this lock bar, it's pretty strong. So, you know, you do get used to it. You know, you kind of forget about it and you just accept it after a while. But it is something that, you know, like, I don't know. You know, it's a little annoying right here. Sometimes, you know, I want to like pull down right here and like really kind of lock in, and I'm being poked right there. Like, so that's kind of an annoyance. The thumb studs are slippery. So that's another negative. I don't know what Chris Reeves' issues are with their thumb studs. Either the pokey or the slippery. They just don't, they don't know how to make a good thumb stud, I guess. I don't know. They make an incredible knife, but damn their thumb studs, man. They just, whatever. Anyways, the sharpening choil is not the best. I'm not a huge fan of the sharpening choil on this model. I'd like to see this lanyard pin be able to stay in without the lanyard, you know. It'll fall out if you move the lanyard out, but whatever. Not that big of a deal. Next thing, the name, the Umnumzaan name. I'm not a huge fan of that. It's just ridiculous to say. Umnumzaan, I don't know, whatever. That's not that big of a deal either. All, you know, weird things to say. But all in all, man, I love this knife. I think this knife is absolutely incredible. I think it's a hard use working knife that's toughly built. You can see the lockup is super duper strong. I mean, zero play whatsoever. And solid knife. I like using it. I like carrying it. I think it looks good. I would love it to have grippier thumb studs. That is one thing. But yeah, it's an incredible knife. And here's some size comparisons really quick. Here's the Sebenza 21. You can see they're basically the exact same size. And then here is the new Hinder Tri-Way Fire Tack. The Hinder Fire Tack with the Tri-Way. Basically the same size as well. Pretty much. Love this knife. Here is the Hinder XM18 3.5 inch. I'm pulling these knives out because they're right around the same price range and kind of the same caliper of knife. And just because, since some people might not know those, here is the Spyderco Shaman. But let me just say, this knife holds a massive reputation. A massive reputation. People love this knife. People, I hear a lot of times people say, man, I wish they'd stop making so many Sebenzas and make more Umnumzaans. And I get that. People want to see more of these made. They're just not making as many as they are the other knives. And yeah, they're really sought out. People absolutely love them. They have just a massive reputation. And I get it. I get it. I personally like the Sebenza a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Some people argue that this is a harder use knife than this knife. I don't know. Possibly. Yeah, probably. Maybe a little bit. But at what level of hard use are we talking about? I mean, this knife is an incredible work knife. Incredible work knife. So I love the ergos on this thing. It just melts in my hand. I love the action. I'm not a fan of thumb studs, but I have gotten used to them, even though I would like to put some of those replacement thumb studs in. But yeah, what a great knife. Awesome knife. I love you guys. Thank you, Floydian, for letting me check this thing out and do an actual review. It's amazing to me, some of the knives that are built and just how tough knives are these days and how awesome knives can be, man. This is definitely an awesome knife. I love you guys. Peace.